Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, March the 2nd, 2023. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Back on Thursdays, arguably our most popular show of the week with the great Bill Kurelic and the great Mark Porter. Gentlemen, once again, the first 15 minutes of the show, if you paid premium and were on C-SPAN, you got to see a lot of that. So, hopefully no one was recording, because if any of it is released to the public, I will be pumping gas. But anyway, we are here to talk recruiting and the like. Bill, I want to start with a guy who, I don't know if he was not completely on the radar until now, but not the number one guy we've talked about running back wise, but it is Sam Williams-Dixon. Running back, I believe it was West Holmes when he got the offer. Today, he is not going to West Holmes. He has changed high schools. He will attend Pickerington North. For those of you outside the Buckeye State, that's going from a relatively smaller school to one of your bigger, massive public schools. So the quality of football competition will obviously pick up. Bill, if you could explain to us what that means and how much Ohio State likes him. And Mark, this young man will be our next featured eye in the sky dude. So you can offer a little bit of insight and tease the people about what's coming next. So Bill, the floor is yours.
Well, as a former high school head coach, basketball in my case, it means that you've got a really, really happy head coach at Pickerington North High School.
Sure do.
In my time at Dublin High School, only got one or two transfers in, I guess 2 or 3 transfers in, and none of them, need I say, would be the caliber of Sam Williams-Dixon. I mean, you get an Ohio State caliber running back moving into the program, you're pretty happy. And I'm sure the Pickerington North head coach is pretty happy at this point. He's got a heck of a 1-2 punch now. O'Connell, the quarterback, about
Landon O'Connell, yep.
Yeah, 6'4", and has offers already. And you put him with Sam Williams-Dixon, and that's a pretty good duo. Sam was moving to Pickerington and had the opportunity to go to Pickerington North or Pickerington Central. He is at Pickerington North. That's the school he's going to be playing his senior year for, and I think it's good for him as well. You know, you've got certainly a step up in competition there. Not to put down West Holmes, Millersburg West Holmes had a very good season last year, but it's not Division I. Pickerington North finished 7-5 last year, and now with their quarterback back and with Sam Williams-Dixon, I think the expectations will be even higher. So great addition for Pickerington North, and I think it'll be good for Sam as well. The other story there is that he narrowed his list down basically to 5 schools, and one of them, as expected, is Ohio State. He is going to be visiting Ohio State coming up when the visits begin next week, and certainly he's a guy that I could see ending up at Ohio State. Not a done deal, but it's very possible. And I just saw a happy birthday wish for me there on the screen. Turned 24 today, which is nice. But I appreciate that for the person that posted that.
Bill, we won't give away your age, but how many years have you been at the same weight?
Well, a few.
Several decades, I might add. I've taken Bill out to lunch one too many times in my career, and we used to have a running joke that we would order burgers Kurelic style, which is bun and burger.
You know what?
Way to go.
That makes 3 of us. My friends have a running joke that when I go to a restaurant, you're going to get that plain burger? But maybe there's something going on at Bucknuts.
You were the mac and cheese chicken tenders kid till you were 17.
I got a son who has never experienced anything but chicken fin tenders. He just freaking loves them.
Yeah. The thing is, when you get a little older and you see how much bad is in that hamburger, I was back in the old days probably twice a week hamburger guy. I probably have a hamburger now about once every 6 to 12 months, believe it or
I was
not.
I was a
Those
twice a
days
day
are over.
burger
That
guy.
gives me cholesterol.
I was a twice a day burger guy. You're fine.
Yeah, watch your cholesterol is all I'll say.
Yeah, I finally went to that appointment where they take your blood. I didn't realize there was stuff in your blood.
That's
The reason I turned around when you were talking about Pickerington North is they're loaded. Like you're like, oh, we got a great quarterback, great tailback. Let me kind of read off. Like I think I have 9 Division I prospects on that team right now. You guys remember Angelo McCollum, the defensive tackle from Olentangy, he transferred there. Yep. He's a big time inside player. Preston Bowman in the class of 225 is one of the best receivers in Ohio for that class. So Landon O'Connell's got some receivers to throw to. He also has another receiver, Jaden Vitale, Jared Siebert, and A.J. Miller. Like he's got a 4 wide receiver set as good as anybody. Rex Lair. So not to digress, but we'll geek out a little bit on Pickerington North and where Sam Williams is going. Wow. There's none of those type names on West. Yeah. So no disrespect to West Holmes. They're a playoff caliber team. They've made deep runs, maybe due to Sam Williams-Dixon. If we talk more about like the film breakdown that you guys are going to see today on him, he dominates his competition. If you look at the scores of the West Holmes games, there was a period where it was 48, 58, 63, 48, 53. I mean, they were hammering teams where I doubt that they needed Dixon, more than half the time. And then all of his runs are touchdowns. Every single play on his highlight film, plus 10 runs I didn't put on there, are 50, 60, 70-yard touchdowns. So he did what he was supposed to do to that type of caliber team he was playing. He played some good caliber teams, not every week. I'm not going to bang his competition because they were a good team. But obviously, the list of names I just ran, and if Pickerington North ever played West Holmes, it might be 60 to nilch. I mean,
what type of back is he? Size, speed, maybe a couple. What is
I don't think Ohio State would ever really offer a back. I had a great running back coach say, there's 3 or 4 different ways a running back can be great, but if he has all of those tools, you got something special. You can be great with speed. You can be great with power. You can be great with jitter. You can be undersized, whatever, and have receiving. But if you have all of that, and Sam Williams-Dixon, the more you watch him, he's over 200 pounds. A lot of runs through the tackles where he bruises people, runs over people, they drip off of him, and that's repetitive. On the outside, you see the patience, the vision, the cutbacks, and then you see the sprinter speed where he's just taking everything and putting distance on guys. I'll be interested to see how that speed holds up next year against some corners and DBs that run 4.4, 4.5 in whatever league they're in, because I don't think the kids chasing him were that caliber every week to be critical. But he did put the distance on he should. So, as I look at him, he's got a couple of those traits to make him great. He's got the receiving ability, the power, he's got some jitter, vision, speed. So he checks a lot of boxes, hence Ohio State offer. I think I put my write-up. I remember Dan Herron from Warren Harding was 5'11", 202, and that just rung a bell when, he's 5'11", 202, and they do. Herron had some power. Herron had some jitter. Herron maybe didn't blow you away with speed, but he outran a lot of people. And then a little bit of Mayan Williams, same type of thing with Mayan Williams. He's got some plugger in him, but, he can get out there and jitter and run with people. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops. And I think if he ever played at 215 or 220, you might see a banger that moves the chains and someone you get out on the edge and can do some damage.
Very interesting. They've got another offer out to Jordan Marshall. I think the general vibe is that Marshall ranks ahead of Williams-Dixon on the depth chart, but he's one of those backs like you described him. Like his strength is his lack of weakness. You know what I mean? It's like maybe he doesn't have elite traits in some categories, but the fact that he can do a little bit of everything. Those are the guys that have the potential to be 3 down backs too. Got a little sand in his pants so he can block. So very interesting. I would think Marshall's more almost a 3 down guy as well. So
you know what? I had to do the who ranks higher at the end, and I sat there and kind of flipped back and forth between films, and I really looked at these like subtle differences.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both so elite. It's like having a really hot brunette and a really hot blonde. Say, hey, which one you want to go to prom with? And you beat yourself up for a week because you leave the other one out. So, but Marshall, if I had to put money on it, being in a Division I program, seeing solid competition, but you know what? Sam Williams-Dixon may come back over the top at Pickerington North next year and say, hey, I'm doing it against great competition now. Rethink what you did last year. So it's maybe a confidence thing right now on just he's more bullet tested, more bulletproof. I'm
sure the Williams-Dixon crew is well aware of Jordan Marshall and his offer and the fact that he was playing at Moeller, you play as tough a schedule as you can possibly play. I'm not saying that was the reason they moved to pick North, but if he does want to go to Ohio State and he sees himself with that type of competition, he doesn't want to be behind, several steps when he gets there for sure. We've got a lot of good questions here. I'm going to take a break, pay some podcast bills, and we will come back and answer these questions because people are doing my job for me here. All right. Mika Hanna, I'm coming to you. Just chill for a sec there. The OSU state of mind. What's the news on the O-line, William? I see the Armstrong twins were offered by Georgia. Yes, they were. Your thoughts? Do you think I had already penciled those guys into the class? I guess we could expect, given their excellent profile and how much we've talked about them here, that it makes sense the best teams in the country would come calling. I guess the Georgia offer was expected. I could see Tricky Nick getting involved here at some point. Bill, what is your thoughts on Georgia offering St. Edward's Armstrong twins?
Well, I have been in contact talked to both Devontae and Deontay since that offer. Obviously, they're pretty happy about that offer. Kind of the first thing my thought was that there's been some people that have been down on Ohio State for offering a lot of, quote, 3-star guys. Well, the Armstrong guys, Mark and I have been kind of on their bandwagon for a while. They're players. I mean, like Mark has talked about, their feet are tremendous. They're big. They're both 6'6", 6'7", and 280-pound range. They're just developing. They're outstanding players. I still like Ohio State for both of them, but they're going to take visits. They're going to take official visits. So this is not a decision that's going to come in the next, unless something drastic changes, which I don't expect. It's not going to come for a while. Right now, I think the two leading schools, at least heading up to the Georgia offer, and I think still the two leading schools for both of them would be Ohio State and Penn State. But I think they're going to take at least 3 or 4, and quite possibly all 5 official visits before they decide. But I'm still going with the Buckeyes in the end. But we'll see. It's gonna be a battle.
And they are the rare package deal that's actually a package deal. We've talked about this forever, that it doesn't happen as much anymore because I think all the players are in so much contact with each other. But there used to be a time when you'd leave these all-star camps, dudes would meet someone at the camp and claim afterwards they were going to go to the same college, and they never, ever did. However, if they're related, they're brothers. The Kwanjo brothers from DeMatha, who went to Alabama, strike a chord there. So I would expect the Armstrong brothers to matriculate to the same school. And once again, we will be bummed if it's not Ohio State.
And also, along those lines, Dan, although they're both offensive linemen, Devontae is being recruited generally as a guard, which is what he plays at St. Ed's. Deontay is being recruited generally as a tackle, which is what he played. So you got a chance not only for them to go to the same school, but be playing literally right next to each other.
I'm sure that's part of the master plan. Wouldn't want those two competing for snaps. That wouldn't make sense. They've competed for dinner for now X number of years. All right. Mika Hanna keeps asking this question. I want to lead into Mark's review that came out earlier this week on KJ Bolden. For those of you who have not seen that review, it's something you want to check out. Keep in mind, this is a very good year for corners in Ohio with Bryce and Aaron right there at the top, guys we've talked about ad nauseum.
Let's not leave out Carson Hobbs or the Nichols kid down at Withrow. I think there's a fearsome foursome of. I mean, if you're going to Notre Dame and Nichols has a Notre Dame offer, like Dwayne Long used to say, the Big Four are in on these guys. So like you said, great. You were saying great class, and I think you're about to say nationally with Ohio, but you got to throw those names in there, even though they might not get Ohio State offers.
Okay, let's do this then. KJ Bolden, you said, would have been the number one dude. I don't know if you guys were. 2 Thursdays ago, Mark said he would never compare another secondary prospect to Marshon Lattimore. Then he did the KJ Bolden review, and he compared him to Marshon Lattimore. So, famous last words, Mark. What made you go back on your word?
Okay, so when we talked about that, we were talking about Aaron Scott and Bryce West, and the question was, are they Marshon Lattimore? And I don't see Bryce West on offense, largely because Glenville doesn't do a lot of them there to have that type of career. And, a lot of times Bryce West is shutting down people, so there's not a lot of film there. And same with Aaron Scott. Marshon Lattimore had this gaudy highlight film on both sides of the ball, returns. Yeah, he was just off the charts. So, and I have Marshon Lattimore in the category of the Deion Sanders, the Darrelle Revises, those shutdown corners. Ask Mike Evans how good, Marshon Lattimore is. And, there's not many guys doing that to Mike Evans every time he plays them. So to compare high school kids to that lofty of a thing, I joked with you guys, we got to quit comparing kids to Deion Sanders. We get our fan base all pumped up, and, no kid should, have that type of, if you don't live up to Deion Sanders, you're a bust. You could be a very good corner, and a lot of great corners come out of Ohio State and go to the NFL, but they're not all, the number one guy in the league. So turn on that Bolden film, and, as it just keeps going, and he keeps splitting seams, running away from people, offense, defense, he looks effortless. I'm like, the football gods are up there going, there you go. There's another one that looks like Marshon Lattimore. And so, jokingly, I hate to do this to Bolden, but he has juice on both sides of the ball. It's effortless. He looks like a guy playing against JV kids at time, and I know that competition is good, but he's explosive. And it's not like just a few times you see it. It's there. And he has it. And to think that you could develop that more with a strength coach, and you're looking at it, there's going to be a fight for this kid, and someone in my thread last night asked, what are the chances we get him? Is it like 10 or 15%? And throw that to Bill now.
Sure. Before we go on, let's set some context here. You guys have heard me come on here and basically sell real estate for Gwinnett County, north of Atlanta here. He is from Gwinnett County. He went to Buford, which is the same high school as Justice Haynes. I could make an argument that right now that's the best high school football going in the country. Also, you can go watch KJ Bolden highlights back till he's 12 years old, and he looks like that from day blanking one. He was put on this earth to play football. So any previous – it's like I said this the other day. I can't remember if I said it on the air or not. When I interned in basketball operations for an NBA team, this is what they used to say to them. You better not get burned picking the outlier. But by the way, if you miss on the outlier, you're fired. KJ Bolden is an outlier. I would add in the fact that he's in Georgia, and that's not exactly where we'd want to compete with guys right now. I would literally tell him, you can play any position you want. You can return kicks. You can play safety. You can play corner. Literally, he plays safety and corner for his team. You can play tailback. You can play flanker, wide. I would tell him you can play whatever you want. We'll create a package for you to go both ways, whatever. He's that good.
I wish I could give the Bucknutter credit, but he goes Chris Gamble, and it was in that thread, which you just nailed it, Dan. He's even
more explosive, though. And I love
but your point is, let him do what he wants. He wants some snaps on offense. You let him have some snaps here. To keep kids in this day and age of NIL, that may be what you need to do to get them from Georgia. Georgia, he may see a logjam, but boy, that receiver room at Ohio State, the last thing they need is a guy coming over there and making waves.
All right, Bill, you've obviously known about KJ Bolden since he was probably in third grade. Can you bring us up to speed on what you think of him? If you think we're being over the top here, and maybe put his recruitment in context. Listen, he's been to Ohio State before. He's got another visit scheduled. They are in the mix for this dude.
Yeah, let me first go back real quick. The whole question started, how many corners are going to be in this class? And the answer is at least 3. Maybe 4, but at least 3 corners will be in this class if they get the guys they want. And I'll go a step farther on that. I think the 3 guys, I've got them picked, the 3 of 3 or 3 of 4, whichever. I like Aaron Scott to be in the class. I like Bryce West to be in the class. And I like, from Arizona, Miles Lockhart to be in the class. I've got all 3 crystal ball to Ohio State. So that's 3 that I like there. Guarantees on all of them? Nope. But that's who I think 3 of them will be. That's my prediction. In the case of KJ Bolden, they're recruiting him as an athlete, safety, could play corner, I suppose, receiver. And they have used that comparison. They've told him, not a lot of two-way guys that are really two-way guys making an impact in college football. Certainly Ohio State had one of them in Chris Gamble. And they said, hey, come here, be the next Chris Gamble. But, maybe on steroids, because as you say, this guy's unbelievable. I mean, he is tremendous. As far as where he's going to end up, I don't know right now, but I will say that I'll be shocked if it's not one of 3 schools. If Bolden doesn't end up at Ohio State, Georgia, or Clemson, I will be very surprised. I think those are the 3. Of course, down there you can't rule out Alabama, but right now the 3 schools for Bolden, in my opinion, from everything I'm told, are Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson. I think Ohio State and Georgia are the 2 most likely, but I'm not ruling out Clemson. Some feel that since he is the cousin of Perry Eliano, Ohio State, how could they not get him? Well, they could not get him because he's in Georgia. And Georgia, as you said, Dan, that's not necessarily the school that you want to be competing against, in their home, in their backyard. So we'll see.
I know I forgot to mention that Perry Eliano is his relative, and they're recruiting his assistant. I mean, I would, if I were Ryan Day, and I'm not, people, but I might go into Perry Eliano's office and quietly hint that my expectation would be that his relatives come to the school. I don't know how else to say that.
He might be getting his next.
I'd say it nicely, but I would also go ahead.
I was to say Perry might reply with, "Well, I have another cousin that's in 6th grade. We'll get him."
I would say if that cousin knows KJ Bolden, tell him to give him a call because KJ Bolden is part of the class. It'd be very interesting. And Bill, like you said, this guy is as high profile as it gets. I imagine this recruitment's going to go on for quite some time, and he's going to be the apple of their eye for a while. We got some other really – go ahead.
I think we're right to assume that you take him no matter what. He doesn't even factor into that corners number. Like if you had 4 corners and then he says, I want to come, you still take him. I think he's that type of player. Yeah.
The JT Tuamalo plan is absolutely fine with KJ Bolden as well. I mean, literally, when do we go to Indiana? The day before, if he wants to come get some pads. We'll maybe give him a week to get set up, and he can play week 2. Mika Hanna, do we offer any in-state corners? We went over that. Here was a really interesting question. Let's make sure we – all right, Bill, I want to do this, and then we'll finish with the other philosophical question. Chad Stryker, curious what your thoughts are on Air Noland. I've been hearing he's the fastest release of any of the 24 kids. We talked about Air. First real name is Prentice, but I asked Andrew Ivins on Tuesday. He is the director of scouting for 24/7 Sports and handles that area of the country, and says, no, when you speak to him, he likes to be called Air. So right there, I think we know where that comes from, and it's not a mediocre bar to set for yourself. Anyway, I would never let my kid wear 23, but I digress. Very impressive. Undefeated season in the biggest classification in Georgia. Left-handed, so it's kind of interesting. One of his main targets, Jelani Thurman, the tight end, who we all have such high hopes for, was his high school teammate. He has not been offered by Ohio State, Bill. Why?
Well, they are going to have him up here on a visit. And quite often Ohio State won't offer a kid. Well, first of all, let's go back. They're not going to offer a quarterback until they've seen him throw in person. That almost never happens.
It's happened once before.
Brock Glenn was the guy.
And then once before that was Joseph Burrow.
Yeah. Well, Brock Glenn, they offered him, but they really pretty much had to because he was not going to visit Ohio. They needed a quarterback at that point.
Yep.
He wasn't going to come up and visit unless he had the offer. And it was getting a little bit later in the process. They went ahead and offered him before he visited, before they had seen him throw in person, I should say. And, of course, he ended up committing. They did go down and see Aaron Nolan throw in person at the end of January. From all I'm told is that workout went well. They didn't offer at that point. He is going to come up and visit March 31st. So in a perfect world, they would like a kid, a quarterback, to have seen him throw in person and have got him on campus for a visit. That perfect world aligns come the end of March and he visits Ohio State. So at that point, we'll see if they offer. My gut feeling is, he's probably going to get the offer, but we'll see. Air is taking a great approach, really. He says, I've done everything I can to get this offer, and it is still an offer he absolutely wants. He likes Ohio State quite a bit. So, again, he's taken a great approach. He's done everything he can. And he says, I understand the recruiting process at Ohio State with quarterbacks and all, and that you have to go through a process. You've got C.J. Stroud and, the litany of great quarterbacks that have been at Ohio State since Ryan Day has taken over and Corey Dennison on, even before that with Urban. So it is a process. He understands that. And if Ohio State offers, they are going to be absolutely a top choice of Aaron Nolan's.
And I've said this before. It's interesting to follow Ohio State quarterback recruiting, but it should not be stressful because they have proven over and over and over again, no matter how much, sand has gone through the hourglass, they can pull it off. Devin Brown would have been the biggest recruit for almost every program's history. They got him at the last second. Bill, you tell the story about C.J. Stroud all the time. At this point in time in C.J. Stroud's career, he wasn't being recruited by Ohio State. So everybody wants to be at the Heisman Trophy ceremony as a quarterback. When you send multiple people there over a stretch of years, you're going to be able to get them. And there's going to be an NFL draft between now and when guys commit. You're going to have another Ohio State quarterback go at the top. So while this is interesting chatter, it is literally not something you should stress about at all. In fact, if you want a reason why Ohio State can be penciled into the college football playoffs basically every year, a lot of that is because they're always good at quarterback and not just good, borderline elite. Okay. There was a question in here, a more philosophical question. You guys are both dads and recruiting gurus, so you can answer this as well. I'm sorry if it's going to take me a second to find it here. It was from Larry Ventresco, and the question is, do you think dads, do you think adults, here we go. Sorry about that. That is my fault. Larry Ventresco. We're going to finish with this because very philosophical. Should a parent have the right to tell their son what school he should go to, or S-Hugo, I don't know what that means, even if they don't want to go there? What is your opinion? Thanks. We will take these in order. Let's go Mark, Bill, and then I'll finish.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to, if your son was diehard to go somewhere, and it seems like maybe this question, I'd like to know the schools, like what are you looking at? But I mean, if a school's perfectly acceptable with the education, distance from whatever, and your kid really wants to go there, you're setting up for a bad precedent if you tell your kid you got to go where I want you to go, and he doesn't have the good time there, the experience there. It could be your worst nightmare having him at the school you want with him not wanting to be there. And maybe it's something as stupid as, hey, my girlfriend's at this school, I want to go there, and you're the adult in the room saying, do not go where your girlfriend's at. You could break up with her freshman year. I mean, so this question is loaded. You know, I'd like to know a little more details or whatever, but in general, I'd hope I have a relationship with my son where we could get to the same point. But yeah, I could see an 18-year-old being like, man, my girlfriend goes here, but you know, the national champions have offered you. And yeah, I don't care about that. I really like her. So,
Bill?
Well, you know, having had 3 kids that have been recruited and gone through the process at various levels, 2 daughters for softball and a son for basketball, and again, at not the Ohio State level, but at various levels, you know, there is sometimes differences of opinion of where you think might be best and where they think might be best. But in the end, you know, I think you should let your kids know how you feel and point out the pros and cons and all. But I would steer away from telling them where they have to go, because if it doesn't work out, they're going to blame you. And I don't think you want that. So I know in my case, I certainly let my kids know where I thought were the best choices. But in the end, the final decision came down to them. And I think that's the way it should be as a very general rule, certainly.
Yeah, so I have a son who plays college basketball like Bill at not the highest of levels that was recruited. And I'm going to kind of combine the 2 answers because that's how we did it. What Mark said is really what I would suggest if people are going to go through this. You should have been on the same page with your child, daughter or son, well in advance of making a decision so that he or she is looking at the right things in a college. The transfer portal is not just a thing in Division I. It is across the board, man. Athletes now are willing to boogie at the drop of a hat. I know it's crazy in basketball. What I would suggest for everybody is get to know the coaches and make sure they have a vision for your child. That is what has been the consistent thing to me about the people who've been successful. It's like when you're talking to the coach and you see the wheels turning in his head about how he can use your kid and stuff, and you've seen him use similar players before in that way, I think you got a much better chance. We were very lucky in that by the time the recruiting process, I mean, this can be worked to your favor, as everybody knows. And I have a daughter who's a senior in high school, a dancer, is going through this a little differently, waiting to hear from colleges. And it's really stressful. Not knowing where you're going to go to school your entire senior year can be really stressful, especially for those competing in their senior year. Like we wanted for my son, we wanted to have his commitment out of the way so he could enjoy his senior year. So we were lucky that, I mean, it's fair to assume that the guys that you can see on the screen know a little bit about recruiting. So maybe the coaches we dealt with didn't throw any curveballs because they would have gotten jacked out of the park and we probably would have gone to a different school because we know the tricks. And I'll say that the first meeting we had with the coaches was probably a little eye-opening to them because I asked the main 3 questions that you get asked at the end right at the beginning and just laid it out there and said, I'm a recruiting guy, so blah, blah, blah. But they had a vision for my son. He applied to one school. He knew he was getting, they pre-screened him. He knew he was getting in there. So he got to play his entire senior year, not worrying about it. He never had to worry about applying to a bunch of different schools. And he just finished up his junior year there and he's really happy. Now, his recruiting class had 4 guys in it. 2 guys left. That's just how it goes. So I would really get in tune with the vision they have for your child because for the most part, and I can't speak for everybody, and Bill can even speak to this, and Mark can speak to this now. If you're getting recruited, you're probably pretty good, which means you don't sit on the bench very often. And these kids go to college and they have to sit on the bench and they're away from home for the first time. It can be very traumatic. That sounds like a small thing, but if you've never been on the bench before, ever in your life, it sucks. Okay. Kids don't like it. So that was one of the main things for us when we were choosing a school was playing time early on. And then that's got to be coming as a matter of truth. So it's not a simple process, and it's case by case. You know, we make a lot of these recruiting generalizations here. When you go through it with an individual child, everything becomes case by case. And then, by the way, the coaches may leave 18 months after you get there. So it's a convoluted process, man. I would say this: really, really focus on enjoying high school sports. There's a purity to it. There's part of high school that I know my son still misses, and he's had a wonderful college career, but there's a certain part of high school that you're not going to get back ever again. I can tell you as a reporter that's had a chance to cover college and the NFL, there's nothing like Friday nights when that anthem's going on, man. But everyone's quest is to get to the next level, and we've played a small part in that here. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I could digress for another 20 minutes on this subject, obviously, but I think you did a really good job of kind of telling people why and why not they should do that. And I think the other thing is that kids want to play. When you said sit on the bench, that struck a chord with me because, I've been through enough of these situations where you see at Alabama, didn't they have 19 kids hit the portal? Right? Is that what they had this year? I think it was 19.
Alabama has a guy, Drew Sanders, that's going to get drafted in the top 40 picks that transferred out of Alabama after 1 year and went to Arkansas.
And the point is they want to play.
Correct.
And the winning is secondary to the playing, which, forever football coaches, team, winning team. I'm here to tell you that has shifted where now it's about me. When do I get on the field? Okay. You're wasting my freshman year, my sophomore year. You're not developing me those years. I'm falling behind. And that's, you have to recruit your own roster if you're at Ohio State. You have to have a plan for every kid on your team. Like you said, you have a vision for my son. Ohio State better have a vision for every player where they have a path to get to a special teams job, to get to a depth chart where they're on the too deep, or these kids are gone. Yep. They all think too highly of themselves. And is that our fault? Is that culture's fault where we blow them up and give them stars and tell them how great they are, and they haven't done a darn thing yet? So this whole thing where winning's the first thing, and then I'll ask you this: who's really selfish? The head coach that says, "Hey, come sit behind my starting quarterback for 2, maybe 3 years, and I promise that 4th year it's yours, buddy." Boy, is that a leap of faith right now that not too many kids are willing to buy into, right or wrong. But I sense it in the players I talk to that, yeah, I want to go to the winningest program, but if I ain't playing, piss on it. I'll go play at Appalachian State and develop myself and give myself my adulation. Sorry to go digress there, but that playing time thing is at any level, huge. I'm not here to bust my ass for 365 days to stand there on the most important day of the week.
Especially when you told me I was going to be playing.
I have to finish with one thing here, how things have changed. As a former head basketball coach, I was a big, huge John Wooden guy. John Wooden used to always say the biggest motivator a coach has is the bench.
Oh, yeah.
If they're not going to do what you want as a coach, if they're not going to do what you want as a team and follow, well, you put them on the bench. If they're not going to work hard, you put them on the bench, and that'll motivate them. And it was in those days. That was the biggest motivator a coach had, the bench. Bill Walton wasn't going to cut his hair. John Wooden said, "Been nice having you here. You're going to either sit on the bench or go." Bill Walton got a haircut.
Yep.
Nowadays, not the case anymore.
I was waiting for you to flip that. Yeah.
Bill Walton would have been State in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, you put a kid on the bench now, and it's the next school right down the road.
With open arms, saying, "I love your long hair." What do you mean that a-hole coach wouldn't put you in the game because you did the wrong thing? And it enables this athlete that we all don't like. But you know what? If he's got talent and you don't want to kiss his, someone else will.
I hate to. I'm trying to characterize this correctly. Everybody and we are on a digression now, people. If you got somewhere to go, boogie. Everybody says the right things. That's what I meant by case basis.
Yeah.
Until it's their kid. Okay. Everybody's willing to say, hey, don't know your role, embrace your role until they bench your son. Trust me. Because then you got to deal with your wife. Okay. I'm not even kidding about that.
Yep.
There's so many factors that go into this that people have no idea about. And football is a little bit better than basketball in that there's a Darwinistic aspect of it. As like my coach used to say, you want, go ahead and I'll let you go out there. You'll get killed. You know what I mean? They'll take care of itself. Basketball has some magical force field at the out of bounds marker where people can watch an entire game of their child play crappy, come out and be like, the coach isn't using him correctly. We got to go to this, and this. So I'm going to finish with the ultimate digression. So if you have, like I said, if you have somewhere to go, Mark brought this up.
See you guys later.
A real life example of this. Mark talked about following your girlfriend. And this is a fact, so don't let this come out. But do you guys remember the name Van Jefferson? Wide receiver. Yeah, out of the Nashville area, son of Sean Jefferson, who was a great receiver for the Chargers. Van Jefferson, a very highly recruited player.
Ohio State offer guy.
Ohio State was really in the mix for him. This is how I know this. And his girlfriend was going to run track at Purdue. So unbeknownst to the Jefferson parents, he was offered and he committed to Purdue. And he was going to go there to follow his girlfriend. And then his parents found out and let Purdue know, you are never to call my son ever again. He is not going to Purdue. He's too good for Purdue. And by the way, he's not dating that girl anymore now, and he doesn't even know it. So it worked out for Van Jefferson. I believe he went to Georgia. And by the way, I think he transferred to Florida or either way. But he's in the pros cashing checks. I doubt I haven't looked it up.
He's with the Rams, and he had a nice little finish to his season. Then I think he was hurt last year.
He's a heck of a player. Too good for Purdue, I might add. And so, look, that happens at every level. I'm sure, Bill and Mark, we could tell you stories not for publication that would blow you away. But
an NFL player that I played with in college went home one night during camp, got a little homesick. He missed his girlfriend at home. His dad put a for sale sign on his car, put a bunch of applications like at the breakfast table. The next morning, 2 days later, he was back at football. So kids at that age, he really just missed his high school girlfriend. She was still in high school. And I tell you what, if you were in this age, this is another digression. If you're a kid at football camp and you have the nuts to look down at your Twitter feed or your social media feed and you see what your friends are doing on a Friday night when your girlfriend's at a bonfire and there's pictures of her with 9 guys surrounding her, and you're sitting in a meeting and you got bed check in 20 minutes and you know they're going to be out till 3 a.m, that's a level of anxiety most men can't handle. Okay? That is a situation where all you're going to do is, what else are they doing that night? And boy, would I like to go there, or, whatever. And this is BS. And these guys got me up at 6 tomorrow and doubles. And I can't even get 10 minutes to scratch myself. And she's running around having the time of her life in high school. Yeah.
I want to comment on that.
Yeah.
My daughter, we went on the Ohio State tour officially last week. Shed no tears for guys who go play football at Ohio State when it comes to getting another girlfriend. Okay.
That's funny.
I don't think anything's going to be. I once got sent a picture of J.K. Dobbins walking across center campus in a tank top with the coat below it. Do you think he struggles socially? Greener pastures are ahead for you if you were an Ohio State. God, I could tell some really funny stories about Redskins training camp here, but I will not do that. And we will let everybody go. That was, if you are still listening right now to the show, you are an all-star Bucknutter. We love you. Literally, if you are listening to the show right now, you are the reason we do this. So we appreciate it. And I can't guarantee we'll ever have a digression of this ilk ever again, but you never know. Have a good one.